What's your favorite scary movie? Depot Devoid.
Depot Devoid!
Depot.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Depot Devoid. It's that show where two brothers talk about Scream 4
Excuse
forever.
me, what? Talk about what?
Scream 4 forever.
I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. I thought that we were talking about Courtney Cox's Dark Palace too.
No, this isn't a direct sequel to Courtney Cox's Dark Palace. That we skip over that one. And in fact, as the series progresses, we talk about it less and less.
Well, damn. I guess I'll learn more as we go along.
I think that this movie wisely chooses not to do anything really to call back, especially to Scream 3.
That's because that
It's
movie sucked.
it was not good. It was not a good movie. Which leads me to my first question. What makes this Scream 4 the most important movie of all time, Ted?
Because it scrubs clean Courtney Cox's Dark Palace, and we don't have to think about it much ever again.
Like a Roomba.
Yeah, like that.
That is the best thing that Scream 4 does. Is if the series had ended here, it would be fine because the series would no longer end with Scream 3.
I can respect that.
I feel like there's not. I mean, obviously, I don't want to tempt fate by saying, "Oh, there's nothing they could do at this point that would be worse than Scream 3," because I'm sure they could. But I feel like they are far less likely to walk away from this series on a note that is as low as Scream 3 was.
Yeah. I really hope that this series can't get worse than Scream 3.
It hasn't yet.
Well, we'll see. I haven't judged them all yet.
You could always disagree, but I will stand by at least it does not get worse than Scream 3 at this point, in which there are 6 of them. In fact, it's been so long since we meant to record this that Scream 6 came out, didn't open here. I waited, it finally opened, I went and saw it, and then it premiered on Paramount Plus, and I saw it again. That's how long it's been since we were supposed to record this.
That's pretty good.
I liked Scream 6.
Oh, my new robot vacuum is in the background going doo 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 doo, and the dogs are terrified. I don't know why it's doing.
You don't know it well enough to know what it means.
No, I don't. But we're getting there. Oh, it needs to connect to the internet. Let's see if I remember the password.
Are you doing a secret podcast with your robot vacuum?
I might later. It will probably be called My Secret Podcast with My Robot Vacuum.
And how do you pronounce the acronym for that podcast?
I'd have to write it down.
Whispermerv?
I don't.
That sounds really good. I'm definitely going to like and subscribe.
I mean, we could add a few extra letters in and call it Ms. Power RV.
We could. We that is that going to be our sponsor?
It will be now that I've developed this product.
It'll be more exciting than the constant live stream that Robbie is doing of his entire Woodsboro High School experience.
Yeah.
So overall, impressions, what did you think? Did you have any expectations at all after the dumpster fire of Courtney Cox's Dark Palace.
I couldn't expect that it would be worse. It's they took a real long break and they actually came back to it after that dumpster fire. I was surprised that they would make that risk, but I figured that that meant that they would put some serious effort into it. And
Right.
to be fair, the opening kills were fucking stupid. It started out real bad with those openings.
You're not a big fan of the multiple stab movie openings?
No, it wasn't good to start out in my mind. But I mean, then murder got good. So
Okay. I mean,
I
it wasn't. I mean, it's certainly not the best Scream opening, but what I liked, what I liked about the opening. I mean, it does. First of all, I like right from the beginning, it does feel like you are back in a Scream movie, and while I mean, it's a little forced, but it tells you right away that, okay, it's been like 11 years since the last one. So it's been a while. So it's been a decade since there have been any ghost face style killings.
right.
And what the opening does is it tells you right away that the mythology of the stab movies has continued, even after the killings in real life stopped. And you get like, to me, I think it gives you a real sense of where stab is in like the horror movie landscape, with the glut of sequels that have just gotten worse and worse. I feel like it establishes that pretty quickly. And then it has that sort of cute scene with Veronica Mars and Rogue from the X-Men, which was the best of the multiple murder openings. But I know I enjoyed that. It's not the best, but it's better than killing Cotton and his girlfriend in Stab 3.
Yes, that is also very true. And it really did. My notes here started out pretty clear. Opening kills are dumb, but then murder good. Okay, it's good. So I mean, it developed.
I mean, in fairness, the like when you say the opening kills, do you mean the entire series of events, including the ones that are actually from the Stab movies and not from the Scream movies? I'm just looking for clarification.
Well, see, that would require me to watch it again because it was about a month ago.
Well, my point being that they are dumb, but you are also like, you are watching the openings of Stab 5 and Stab 6 and Stab 7.
Yeah.
Which I mean, yeah, those are gonna be dumb. I mean, Stab 5 has time travel.
So bad.
I mean, that's part of the point, is that the Stab franchise is garbage.
Yeah, it is. But here's one little thing that stood out to me that was both good and bad. I don't know why it was good, probably because Dewey's limp was so poorly done in his acting. But David Arquette loses his limp, and I like that he did that, but it also is like, well, that's also kind of dumb.
He got a revolutionary surgery
Did
during
he?
the intervene. Yes, it's in the deleted scenes.
No.
Prove me wrong, Ted.
Yeah,
Prove that it's not in the deleted scenes.
It's not there. That's Matt making
they
it up.
talk about it. They talk about it in the Scream TV series.
Sure. Okay.
Of which I am definitely
A fan fiction
connoisseur.
creator.
Yes, that too. And a puppet show.
Now the puppet show would be great.
My Scream TV series puppet show fan fiction is at least in the top 3 Scream TV series puppet show fan fictions in the country right now.
Now I'm just thinking about somebody with hand puppets doing a Scream play, and then one of the hands pulls out a knife and starts stabbing the other one, and the person being the puppeteer starts screaming about it, not understanding why.
Oh yeah, that's one of them, but it's not in the top three.
Well, it's in my top three.
They're not on my level.
I see. All
Okay.
right. So,
I also right away they introduced the use of a phone app for the ghost face voice, which, if nothing else, is way less annoying and improbable than the voice changer dealie from the third one. Like, everything about this is at least better than the similar thing in the third one.
But now everyone can be Ghostface.
Well, that's kind of the point. And at least like apps exist. Like, so that's a thing that could happen.
they do a good job of keeping up with current technology, aside from the existence of the white little voice box that now is a white little voice app.
Yes. And this, I don't know. It seems much smoother in this. Like a lot of things that stuck out as really clumsy about the third one, I feel like there's a great deal of course correction happening in Scream 4. And most of it is pretty decent. There's not to say that there's not some clumsy stuff. Which, for example, immediately after this, we go for our little thing where we introduce our main returning legacy characters again. Sydney's in town on her book tour. Fine. That's sort of, it's kind of lame, but it seems like something Sydney would do, is write a book to empower others. But the last stop on her book tour is not only in Woodsboro, but on the anniversary of the murders.
A publicist would have definitely gone for that. They would have been like, we should do this.
Okay, yes, I will believe that. And Annie from Community as her publicist, Rebecca, definitely characterized as the sort of person who would do that. But it's not really like I feel at the very least we should have been told that in fact she engineered that on purpose somehow.
It's in the deleted scenes, Matt.
But also Sydney knows it's the fucking anniversary. Wouldn't Sydney be like, no, I'm not doing that? That just seems to be inviting problems.
She would have thought that.
It's a bit far-fetched. It's less far-fetched than pretty much anything that happened last time around. So a lot of shit gets a pass just for being better than. And I will be the first to admit I'm not judging everything here on its own merits, but rather in a comparative sense.
Sometimes one must.
But hey, this is the first time we actually get a movie where Dewey and Gale are together. It's always either before or after their relationship.
Now, in real life, though, was this during or after their relationship?
I believe that in real life it is after. And
that makes it even more fun.
Now they're finally together on screen. I think. I could be wrong. I don't remember. I love Courteney Cox, but I'm not so obsessed that I actually remember all of the significant dates in her personal life. I promise. Don't check that.
Are you sure? Now, I don't have a whole ton of notes for this movie. Most of them I didn't already anyway, but now it's been nearly a month since I've watched it, so
yeah,
it's a bit of a thing.
I definitely took some notes.
Yeah, my next note is, I didn't say I was in your closet. So that's a little ways out.
Yeah, I mean, we do, like, we meet some characters before that happens.
The obvious
probably
Vulcan.
Yeah, the obvious Culkin. We also have Kirby, who is the cheerleader from Heroes.
Oh yeah.
She's our Randy for this time around. And of course the Roberts girl as Sydney's cousin. Um the daughter of TV's Eric Roberts.
I didn't know who that was. That's funny.
Yeah, she's the daughter of TV's Eric Roberts. She's in a bunch of those like American Horror Story deals. And she's pretty good in those. I had not I kind of like knew her because I'd seen some American Horror Story. But I recently watched a series, a 2-season series called Scream Queens, which is by I think the same guy who created American Horror Story, and it's like a college frat house like murder comedy series, with her as like the lead sorority girl, like the leader of the the Heathers essentially, and Jamie Lee Curtis as the dean.
Hmm.
It was pretty funny actually. It was very enjoyable, and she's a great choice for that sort of thing and in this role. And I feel like um you just kind of get a secretly evil vibe from her like immediately.
Very much.
Did you peg her right away?
Well, her and the obvious Culkin. I mean, it's
Well,
like this is
I
clearly
mean
the pair.
he just looks like he was a serial killer in the 70s. Like it's pretty bad. Yeah, Culkins are always evil.
Yeah,
You can just
right.
assume that, I think. But yeah, so we meet our kids. There's a bunch of mentions of Trevor, Jill's boyfriend, but he's always off screen for a while. Um, and then we meet Deputy Judy, who's taking down the ghost face decorations. And that's when they get the call about the bodies at the Randall house. Because one of those sets of murders that we saw at the beginning was actually like real people in Woodsboro and not Stab 13.
How
So
many
here,
stabs
okay,
are they up to in Scream 6?
there's actually I was thinking about this because I'd been a while since I'd watched the Scream 5 and 6, well, Scream 5 when we first started this, because I was taking the notes on this and I was thinking, wait a minute, because I was pretty sure that I remembered that when we get to Scream 5, they're only up to Stab 8, which puts like only like one movie in between these like 10 years apart, and that's actually true. But they talk about it in the movie. There's a big lull in the franchise, mainly because Stab 7 was so bad. um and it's in development hell for a long time, and then David Gordon Green, I think, is the one who brings it back. The same guy who did the Halloween reboot in 2018.
All right.
But yeah, they keep talking about the Stab movies going forward. I kind of like how Scream 4, it's because it's been 10 years, it gives it time to sort of it's become a world that is sort of steeped in its own lore, because we have, even before, even by the time we were in Scream 3, there's already 3 Stab movies. So we know that this is happening. And so now it's been 10 years. And so this has been continuing all of this time. And um, I feel like this movie is wisely going back to the sort of the motivations from the original movie, and kind of ignoring Scream 2 and Scream 3 became much more personal. Like there's a revenge and a jealousy, and it's all about Sydney and blah blah blah. And this, we're kind of going back to, I mean, it's about Sydney, but it's also really much more about killers who are eager and willing to murder other people for super selfish, media obsessed reasons, which is what Bill and Stu were like. They were recreating their horror movies. They're obviously like they're completely psycho. But they want to become famous and engage with the media aftermath, and Jill wants to be this like media darling victim survivor. And I feel like we are going back to where we belong in a Scream movie with Scream 4, because that's what Jill's looking for. We're going back to the same original motivations of why people would emulate these horror movies.
It fits the bill. It definitely makes more sense and feels much more like a Scream movie than what we saw with Scream 3.
It was a bad movie.
Yeah, it shouldn't have happened. They should have known that it shouldn't have happened. There were so many levels of failure on that. It's hard to believe that they ever actually let it get out the gate.
It's really hard to see how that happened, like, because it's so much worse than even Scream 2, and Scream 2 was made in it came out like 9.5 months after Scream. Like, it was really fast turnaround, like obscenely fast. And Scream 3 had at least like a couple of years. Like they could have taken a little bit of time. And it was garbage, and it felt like they didn't know what a Scream movie was. And here I feel like at least they know what they are supposed to be.
And Scream 3 was still Wes Craven, right?
Yeah. The first
it was
four
like
are all Wes Craven.
Of, if not his last movies.
This is his, I think, last movie. Okay. Scream 4. Okay.
Well, at least,
which is a much better way to end his legacy.
Yeah, at least it wasn't the last nail in his coffin was number 3, because goddamn, that would have been terrible. I would have. And
I don't really know what the reception on this movie was like, but I feel at least it wasn't panned the way the third one was.
Yeah.
This movie is so medium. Like, it's not great, but it's satisfying. It's pretty good. The performances are decent. It's funny, but it's not too funny. It's gory. It's much gorier than Scream 3, which, I mean, like, again, was a pretty close post Columbine. A lot of things were weird right then. But I just feel like everything about this is so much better than Scream 3, but not particularly like new or fresh or daring. Like, it's really medium, but that was like good enough for me at the time.
Yeah. And it was okay. It was definitely okay.
It's super okay. It is so fucking okay. It's medium. It is extra okay. Medium. It's extra medium.
I don't like medium rare.
It might even be double extra medium.
That sounds like you're going too far. Too close to well, and I don't feel like it was there.
So we have Sid's book reading, and everyone figures out there's been murders. They trace the cell phone that made the phone calls and find that the phone and the knife have been planted in Sid's car. And here's what happens next, which, if I feel like if anyone didn't immediately get like a secretly evil vibe from Sydney's cousin, at 22 minutes into the movie, the story about the murders hits the news, and in the class in high school, everybody's cell phones go off because everyone's getting their news update. And Jill is the only person who does not look at her phone because she already knows what happened. And it's so obvious, and it's there just because it's super obvious. Like, it's like hanging a lantern right on it. Like, she's like center frame, not even reacting.
She don't give a shit.
No, and it's I thought it was really funny. It's like obviously, I mean, you have to be paying a little bit of attention, but it's like they're not exactly making it a huge secret.
Yeah.
It's you don't have to unravel a lot of intricate details to suss out who the killer is in this movie.
Very true.
It was funny. I loved it.
Yeah, no, I mean it was good. Medium good.
It was very medium good. Jill's mom is the president of the colonies from Battlestar Galactica, which was pretty great. And I feel like this came out sort of I think right after Galactica had ended. So it was like she was pretty well known. And I think that there was just casting her in this like really pretty small role was in itself some sort of weird misdirect, because like everyone knew who she was. She was a pretty big name. She'd like won awards for the show, and then like there she is, and then like she's just in a couple of scenes and then gets stabbed through a mail slot.
Yeah,
I
it
liked
was
it.
it was good. I honestly I did appreciate her death, and it harkened back to me to Scream 2 about how annoyed I was with the murder in the bathroom stall. When dude leans over and is listening to the thing and gets stabbed in the head. It's like you had no way of knowing where that skull was. This one at least is like right through the mail slot. Open it up. There's the body. No problem.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yep. Nice.
And of course we find out later that it was Jill who killed her.
Yep. You know, she wanted to kill her mom. Who doesn't?
And again,
right?
like they're doing the theme of Scream 4 with regard to the horror landscape is remakes. And so this is like the whole ever since the second movie, this has become like a joke in this series where they have to have a scene where someone describes the similarities between this series of murders and a previous series of murders. So this is she had to kill her mom because Sydney's mom died. Well, Sydney's mom didn't fucking die in Scream. Like that happened a year before. It wasn't part of this series of murder. It was just I don't know. This was the clumsiest attempt yet, I thought, to tie these killings together. She describes the school's hot girl being butchered beyond recognition as a parallel to Tatum in the first movie. There is no point in Scream in which Tatum is identified as the school's hot girl or characterized as such by anyone. We only see her relationships with like 3 people. Like she doesn't have any big identity that is given to us in that movie. They're also talking about the pattern of the killings, and she relates it to the series of events in the first movie and ignores the fact that the principal is killed in between the characters that she's talking about. It's just like if you've seen Scream at all, like you can tell that this is not relevant. It's wrong and completely irrelevant. And it seems to only exist so they can make the idea that the party is supposed to be the climax of the movie / the series of murders. It's a big stretch.
It really is. I mean, I understand what they're trying to do and they're having fun with it, but they're not doing a very good job.
I just feel like there would be easier ways and more believable ways for them to discuss similarities between these killings. Or if it's really important, since they're not chronicling actual events. They're writing a script. They could write a script in which the killings actually resemble the pattern of the original murders. Like, I just throwing that out there as a possibility.
I mean, you're just really assuming that the people who are making this film were in any way involved in the others.
Oh shit, you know what? They could get George Lucas to come in and make a special edition of Scream in which they reorder the killings to match the pattern in Scream 4.
And there's a lot of politics and no action.
Oh, I love that. That's what Scream 7
it'll
is going to
be great. It's going to be 100% all about the politics, murder on the side.
Scream 7 is just going to be like 111 ghost faces on the Senate.
Ah, fuck you, Sydney.
With
All
lots
around.
of stabbing sound effects. So many stabbing sound effects. You'd think it was some kind of stabathon.
Oh, that's what they're going to call it. If they haven't already.
So yeah, the big climax of this movie is seems to be building to the stabathon. That's what we're led to believe, which is an annual event in which Robbie and Charlie, the obvious Culkin being Charlie, and Robbie being the guy that records his entire high school experience. They have a secret location, and they show a marathon of all 7 stab movies, which I guess that they do it every year on the anniversary of the Woodsboro murders. I assume they mean the first Woodsboro murders.
Which one of the first Woodsboro murders?
I mean, maybe it's the anniversary of Maureen Prescott's death, or maybe it's the anniversary of Drew Barrymore's death, that kicks off the first series. Yeah, they don't really get super specific about it. Because Scream doesn't all take place in one day.
Yeah, maybe it all falls into whatever is convenient for their high schooling schedule.
Because the Drew Barrymore is killed the day before the anniversary of Maureen Prescott's death. I'm going to go with this is probably taking place on the anniversary of Maureen Prescott. I don't know.
I'm saying it's taken place on a convenient weekend within 2.5 weeks of it. That's just my guess.
Yeah, I mean, also, Sydney says it is the anniversary when she sees the ghost face decorations in the town square, but then the stabathon isn't happening that night. Maybe it's like a week-long celebration in Woodsboro, like 7 glorious days of murder and mayhem.
On the first day of Stabathon, my true love gave to me
a Jiffy Pop left on the stove ring.
Yeah, I like it.
Take the popcorn off the stove.
Yeah, seriously, that's a dumb move.
That made Bill so mad. He
Should
talks about it
have.
all the time.
It was the wrong thing.
Every time any character in any show does something stupid, he yells at them to take the popcorn off the stove.
I appreciate that.
He pretends that he doesn't like these movies, but they have become a part of him.
It is good. Well, my next note here is Sydney got moves when she got into that good little fight. She did some fighting. This is more than I'd seen her expected her to do.
If you were Sydney, at some point you probably would have taken a few self-defense classes, since people keep trying to stab you to death.
Yeah, and there's also one thing that I always remember whenever somebody's got a knife. This is something that is not shown enough in movies is anytime a knife gets introduced into a fight, both parties get cut. Not just one, both of them, almost every goddamn time. So these knife wielders are doing pretty good for the most part, where they rarely ever get stabbed except for on purpose.
They managed to take in general quite a bit of percussive damage without slowing down too much. I
Much
like
so.
that generally the ghost faces are portrayed as being, I mean, obviously they continue to keep coming. They're invincible in that sense. But they are not infallible. They take a lot of damage. They get hit a lot. They fall a lot. They're surprisingly clumsy at times, and I appreciate that. We do have the first time that we actually get to see Gale in her ghost face mask, something I was hoping we would see when she was revealed as the killer in Scream 3, but that didn't happen. But we get to see her in a ghost face mask, sneaking around the Stabathon location to set up her cameras, which I gotta say, I know this was a few years ago, but those secret cameras she was setting up were like the size of Cadillacs.
That they were. It was not subtle.
They were, I mean, part of me was like, oh, maybe it's just like a movie thing, like when you have stage money in a play that's a little extra big so people in the audience can see it. And I'm like, you know what? This is a movie. They don't need to do that.
No,
Those
they
were
really didn't.
fucking gigantic.
That's
So
what she said?
Yes, she did. And then she got stabbed in the shoulder. And on that note, maybe we could take a quick break, and Gail needs to recover from her attack, and we'll be right back.
I'll be right back.
All right, we're back. We've got a big knife sticking out of our shoulder. How are we feeling?
I'm feeling great. I mean, the allergies are bothering more than life, but just surprising because usually knives bother me, but not this one.
I'll breathe in the stabbing. So we got Gail getting stabbed at the Stabathon, which seems like a good place to get stabbed. If you're gonna get stabbed at the Stabathon. And this brings me to, okay, I have a couple of thoughts about this. It's been, for those of us who have been with this series from the beginning, it has been like 11 years since we've had one of these. So it was pretty well assumed that this wasn't coming back. Like, I certainly never expected them to make another one after this much time had gone. I was very excited when I discovered that they were. And like I said before, these are, I rewatch these movies because it's like getting together with old friends. And so this, after a decade absence, this was a reunion, and this was very exciting. I was happy to get the whole gang back together again. And of course, going into it, I assumed that, especially since this is, these people aren't new to this game, and Wes Craven is certainly not new to the horror biz. We have 3 legacy characters returning. One of them, at least, has to die. And then Gale gets stabbed, and you think, okay, maybe this is going to happen, but it doesn't. They don't even leave it a question. Like, she's clearly going to survive. So we're like, okay, I mean, Dewey and Sydney, like, somebody isn't going to make it to the end of this movie, and it could be either one, but one of them has to die. And spoiler alert, they don't. I have very mixed feelings about that as a viewer, because part of me doesn't want them to die, but the fact that I don't want them to die is what fuels a scene in which they are imperiled, because there are stakes to it. When you don't kill one of your returning characters, it sort of diffuses it a little bit, and it kind of feels like the stakes aren't really there that much. And I still find it a little disappointing that even though I didn't wish death upon any of them, it's a little disappointing that none of them died in this movie.
Much like Friday the 13th, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3, when you do end up having, I know that Nancy died. Did her father show up in that and get, yeah, Dad showed up and got murdered in the fucking junkyard.
Yeah, and then like his ghost kind of helps her at the end.
Yeah, but not really.
Returning characters die.
Yeah,
at least if you have multiple returning characters, they can't all make it to the end.
No, and because they all see the goals and they all know that someone's going to have to go, and so they put themselves out and they put themselves at risk, because that's what you do, and that's how you get dead in a movie like this. You don't all make it.
Well, and the thing is, they keep telling us that too. Like, oh, anybody can die. This means you, Sid. It's all like, that's part of the thing that they keep doing, and then they don't deliver on it. And it's like, I mean, I get, like, I have mixed feelings, because it's, you know, you don't want them to die, but you come out of it thinking, like, was it worth it? Like are we better for having had all three of these people survive the movie? I believe that there was an intention that the fourth movie was going to launch a new trilogy, like, immediately. And I assume that there was an intended rhythm to legacy deaths that was going to follow this movie, that they didn't get to follow through on, because I assume it didn't do, I mean, I don't think it like tanked at the box office, but it didn't do well enough for them to want to do another one right away. But it's weird. It's weird that nobody, well, I mean, not nobody died, but it's weird that nobody I love died in this movie.
And I wanted that, damn it.
I did. I wanted to be devastated. And I wasn't. Like, there were some good deaths. The girl next door, whose whole room became a mighty bloodbath. Like, that was a cool little scene.
Was that the I didn't say I was in your closet one?
Yes. Which was, it was cute. It was, you know, it wasn't like I wasn't terrified, and I don't care about her, so I didn't have any strong feelings about her death any more than I felt really strongly about the comedy police getting killed. But they were fun. They were fun deaths. Again, that's where I mean, like, the comedy cops are almost too much, but I to me they weren't quite too much. Like, that's the closest the comedy in Scream 4 ever got to being like just tipping the scales the way it did in the third one. And we never got as extreme as Parker Posey in Scream 3.
Yeah, there's that.
But yeah, but Adam Brody and was it Anthony Anderson as the comedy cops? They were fun. They were a good little duo, Haas and Perkins. Perkins is later addressed as Anthony, so we discover he is in fact named Anthony Perkins, which is a joke in itself. But they don't punch it too hard. Like, this, it's the comedy is not as intrusive as it could be.
Did I ever tell you about this one? I think that he was a PhD student who taught in a class that I had at U of O when I was getting my anthropology degree there. It was an archaeology class, and this PhD student, he's presenting, and he's got a really dry, angry, unhappy, I don't even want to fucking be you hear kind of a voice and attitude the whole time. He's not dressed for the part, but he's dressed for the bit, Matt. He's got fucking khaki pants and a button-up shirt, got the hat, and it's like, my name is Montana Smith. Don't make the joke.
He hates his life.
Yep. Almost guaranteed he went into archaeology just for the pun. My name is Montana Smith. Don't make the joke.
Before I actually worked there, a coffee shop that I worked in downtown Portland, the girl that I worked with was they were robbed, or they attempted to rob them. She ended up like chasing him down and catching him, and he was arrested. And his name was Steve McQueen.
Great. Gotta love it.
Yeah. It wasn't that Steve McQueen.
Probably not. Now completely unrelated, other than like chasing down somebody. When I worked at Steelhead, I went in one day, and one of the waitresses, this scrawny little blonde girl, tiny, and like on a bulimic diet. Unfortunately, that type of tiny. She's got like this huge fucking purple swollen black eye half of her face. It's like, damn, what the hell happened to you? And she's like, somebody tried to steal my purse when I was leaving the fair yesterday. I was like, they get it? She's like, fuck no. I beat the shit out of that guy until the cops came. Like, good job. Yeah. Apparently just like, dude punches her in the face and tries to take her purse. She drops and does not relinquish the purse, just beats the shit out of her. Ah, good times. Good times. Violence in real life and movies. Are you ready?
They can take a beating just like a ghost face.
Yeah.
Well, now we're getting to the point where we're sort of spiraling toward the climax now. So we got the girl next door, we got the cops get killed, we got the president of the colonies gets stabbed to death through the mail slot. And the gang kind of reconvenes at Kirby's house. Kirby is our Randy character. She's, I mean, our analog for Randy from the first two movies. Not that she is herself filled with sexual desire. She is our. Well, she might be, but that's not the way in which I was using the word Randy. I just wanted to draw your attention to that.
Just checking.
She gets a little randy for the Culkin later on, when she gets a little drunk. But she's got her horror street cred. We call attention to her DVD collection with classic horror films. So she's got the knowledge. And as we convene on her house, we start offing more characters. Robbie gets gay and dead outside. Sydney shows up and Ghostface is right behind her. It's a big series of like all the deaths sort of pile up like right at the end. And we got some good stuff. The scene with Charlie and Kirby and Ghostface on the phone and her giving like the big list of remakes. I felt like that scene was trying to do more heavy lifting than was really apparent. I felt like Scream 4 was trying to figure out how to make a comment about remakes in general in the horror genre, but couldn't decide what its position was. and that this scene was sort of that, like, what distilled out of that intent. But really all it's doing is it's trying to somehow criticize the idea that there are like too many remakes, which sure, that's fair. And also maybe it's trying to double down on its earlier assertion that what's happening now is like a remake of the first murders, but it's not. And so instead it's part of the running joke, but it doesn't like crystallize into anything. It's not saying anything other than, gosh, there's a lot of remakes.
I think that you entered into. Oops, where'd you go? There we are. All right. Sorry, I lost you somehow there. I think that you've now entered into the territory of what is this movie actually about?
Yeah. And I don't know what this movie is about, and I don't, not in the same way that I don't know what Scream 3 is about, because Scream 3 is trying to be about everything and nothing, and it's mostly about nothing. Scream 4, I don't know what the movie, the story, like I feel like the movie is mostly apologizing for Scream 3. It's about trying to get things back on track. But in order, like in terms of what it's actually about, as these movies are commentaries on horror films, I don't think it really finds its way. It's doing a much better job than the last one, which doesn't even like it's just directionless. This, I think, is trying to it's the problem is it's trying to find a way to make Scream as a property relevant in a contemporary horror landscape, instead of taking the contemporary horror landscape and and commenting on it and making a Scream story about that. It's kind of trying to do it backwards, which is why it's so medium. What was it about for you? Because to me, it was more about the reunion, and the fun new adventure for three old pals, which is not really probably what they wanted me to take away from this movie.
I think you did a pretty good job of, putting it together here, because it's not actually, in my mind, about much of anything. This was, we don't know what kind of spaghetti we're making, or is it linguine, or is it lasagna noodles? We're going to throw some at the wall and see what happens. Because it really felt very much like this movie is about remakes and starting anew. But I don't think that they had decided when somebody cast the movie that it wasn't going to, in fact, be a remake. I think that they cast the movie and then everyone's like, but we have half a script for a remake and half a script for a fourth film. So what are we going to do with this now?
That could be.
Okay, let's squish it all together. Huh? Do you like it? And the answer is like, yeah,
it's fine.
I mean, you got a little bit of linguine in with my spaghetti, and I'm not quite sure why this lasagna noodle's hanging out.
But it's all
here.
pasta.
But we got pasta. There's some garlic bread. All right, I'm okay with it. It's okay.
Yeah, I can see how it could have been trying to be the two things at the same time, and they just like, let's do both.
Yeah.
I will say, Jill is amazing in the climax. After she's revealed, and Jill goes, she has the like the first one, because it's sort of halfway trying to pretend that it's a remake. Their plan is to be the survivors. The killers are going to be the ones who survive the bloodbath. They've arranged to pin it all on someone else. So that's what they're planning to do. And Sydney's going to die, and Trevor's going to take the blame. She, of course, Jill turns against the Culkin and kills him too, and then proceeds to go through a series of spectacular events of self-harm in order to create the illusion that she was a victim of a violent ghost face attack. And it is a joy to behold.
It's cute.
Watching her stab herself and smash her face into the framed pictures on the wall and leap backwards into a glass coffee table. It's a lot of fun. She does a really good job. Well, and her stunt double.
Yeah, it was quite entertaining, honestly. It's like, you're going a little far. I like it.
Yeah, I had a blast. It was a lot of fun. And then they have a whole other scene because obviously she doesn't actually kill Sydney. So Jill wakes up in the hospital expecting to be the glorious sole survivor of these events, only to discover to her eternal frustration that her cousin Sydney is still fucking alive. So now she has to murder her again. And how are we going to do this? So we get another big
malice.
Wounded girl fight. And it's a little silly, a little extra. And Jill even says exactly that it's just the climax was supposed to be the party. This is just silly. So yeah, it's just a little extra scene with some extra beating and bonking. And Dewey gets beaten with a bedpan, which is, you know, some fun Dewey expectation. And who doesn't love seeing the bad guy get electrocuted with a defibrillator?
I love it. It's one of my favorites.
She was standing right behind me. They always are.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. They always are.
And that's why I always find them.
I remember this brings back this one. I used to the only sort of horror movie influence that ever really permeates my dreams is Michael Myers from Halloween. And I have had a number of dreams that explicitly involve the use of Michael Myers. And one of them, this was years ago, it took place in an empty elementary school, which may or may not have been loosely based on Milner Crest. And you were there at some point, and someone else, and I don't remember who the other one was, but we escaped the school and we got into your car, and you were driving us away, and I was like, he's on the roof now. And you said, how do you know? And I said, because he's always on the roof now. And then he smashed the window and I woke up.
That's good. Would have been more fun if I just would have responded by shooting through the roof. But I guess Dream Me wasn't that would be prepared.
That would be disobeying the rules of the horror movie on which my dream was based.
Yeah, I know. But can't I do that?
I apparently not. My dreaming self is sort of a rigid stickler for the rules if I'm actually dreaming a horror movie. Yeah. But I'm also always aware of it, and yet somehow unable to break free. Like I remember one where I literally I'm like literally at a crossroads at night in a creepy moonlight in like a foresty road. And I know, because this is the rules if you are in a horror movie, like if I'm the character in this horror movie, then whichever direction I choose, that is where Michael Myers will be. So I just stood there, like like Castle Doctrine, stand your ground. Like I refused to choose, and I waited out the dream.
God, I had this dream several times in my late teens, maybe early 20s too, uh, where I would get murdered in my sleep by Freddy Krueger. One of the only times that I've ever actually had any weird horror film related dream.
Nice.
I get murdered by Freddy Krueger. And then he informs me that if I'll just put on the glove and kill everybody else, I get to live. And so it's then him just trying to be like, put on the glove, kill your friends and family.
So it's basically Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2, and you
I've never
were
seen
Jesse.
it. I've never seen it.
It's terrible.
Yeah. That's
the only dream I ever had that I can remember with Freddy Krueger was in the dream I had a job at the Payless in Pony Village Mall in North Bend, and Freddy Krueger was my floor manager. And I was working this really long shift, and I knew that at the end of my shift, Freddy Krueger was going to murder me. It was a really tense dream. But it was like,
sound good.
It was tense partly because of the anticipation, but also because everything else about it was so weirdly normal. Like he was behaving like just sort of a normal kind of a prickish retail manager, like not behaving like Freddy Krueger, except that he was Freddy Krueger and was also wearing the glove.
Was he
But
wearing
he had like a white
sweatshirt?
button-down shirt.
All
Right.
right.
He had like a white shirt and like a name tag and like black slacks. Like he was dressed like he just worked at Payless, but he had like the hideous, deformed, burned flesh of Freddy Krueger and a glove full of knives.
And at the end of the shift, right underneath those white little sleeves, those green and red sweatshirt nubbins would start rolling down the arms, and it's time.
Like how did he even get that job?
It was
like maybe he just
land.
Does he just interview really well?
Probably. That's good stuff.
Let's see. What are my 3 biggest weaknesses, you ask? Well,
lack of glove with knives.
I do have this thing with the souls of children.
I'm flammable.
But it'll be
That's probably my worst weakness. I mean, that killed me.
Burns out.
I died.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's the only Freddy Krueger dream I've. And I don't think I've ever dreamed about Jason. Like, yeah, they don't. I watch a lot of horror movies, but other than Michael Myers, they don't really permeate my subconscious, apparently. But the Michael Myers ones are always really scary for some. Like they're paralyzing in a where I was paralyzed with fear and couldn't choose a direction. Like it wasn't just like stubbornness. I was just like I knew that I would have to face him if I made a decision, so I couldn't do it. And those dreams are always weird, like really scary for some reason.
Yeah, no, I do zombies mostly if I have bad nightmares. Zombies are there.
I'm surprised that I don't dream about zombies, because like zombies are like the only like most horror movie stuff. Like I enjoy the ride, but it doesn't like freak me out on any visceral level. But like zombies and cannibalism, just like they ick me out in this sort of primal way. Like there are a lot of zombie movies that the tone is light enough that it doesn't have that effect. But if I'm gonna be like really grossed by an actual horror movie, it's probably a zombie movie. I don't really want to be eaten by people or things that used to be people.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like such a cool gig. But
No, I mean, as aspirations go, it's low on my list.
yeah, I'd prefer something else personally.
So um so this one is better. You're back on board with the series now.
This is not Courtney Cox's Dark Palace. We're in a better realm. But we have to remember that Courtney Cox Dark Palace is in the in the mix. I'm a little worried about the
Yeah,
future.
it's yes, I hear you. We'll have some more to talk about going forward. But yeah, it in my estimation, it never ever dips back down to that level, at least not yet. But this one, okay, this is 2011. It's going to be another 11 years before we return to this series, and it will be with the first entry in the franchise that is not directed by Wes Craven. We have some new guys who write and direct. I believe it's my understanding that Kevin Williamson, who wrote Scream and has sort of shepherded the series along, does have some sort of consultation involvement, but really it's a whole new group of people who are taking over the creation of the next Scream movie. And it's I'm interested to see how you react to it. Again, I was there from the beginning, and so like for me, like it was 11 years of real time between 3 and 4, and then again between 4 and 5. So there was like a lot of, again, just like after the third one, like after the fourth one, then Wes Craven died. I'm like, okay, obviously this is it. Like this show is never coming back. So just like after the third one, I had made peace with the idea that this was never going to happen again. And so then when it was announced that this was returning, I was cautiously optimistic. Not really sure what to expect with new people behind the camera. Obviously, as it goes on, it's announced that Courtney Cox, David Arquette, and Nev Campbell are all signed up to be involved. You start to breathe a little easier. Like none of those people were so hard up that they had to take this job.
Right.
So hopefully that meant it wasn't garbage. And I didn't think it was, and I hope that you will agree.
Well, I mean, we'll find out. And again, I mean, this type of film, I've never been opposed to it, but it's never been like my jam because I haven't really hung out with people to watch scary movies since I was in my teens. And really, the only series that I nearly watched all of was Nightmare on Elm Street, omitting entirely two. Never seen it. I watched.
Yeah, that you didn't miss much.
Well, I believe I don't know if it was you or if it was Ian or you telling Ian that was like, don't watch two. It's dumb.
It's almost entirely yeah, it must have been me. Like I would definitely discourage people from watching the second one. Unless like that would be one where like if you watch all of them and you love them, then as a completist, sure, go back and watch that. But there's nothing that you need to take from that movie. And
Yeah.
I would say pretty much the same thing about Scream 3. There's nothing that you need in Scream 3.
Well,
And
just
yeah,
as
you could
long as
just
we can
like
always remember to
the
call it
fourth
by
one.
its proper name.
It's just so much shorter than Courtney Cox.
Yeah, just leave it at that. Courtney Cox's
Coco Darp.
Coco
Courtney Cox. Yeah, Coco Darp. It's Coco Darp.
Darp.
Coco Darp. It's yes, this is a big improvement over Coco Darp. And I hope that we never I don't feel that we ever hit Coco Darp again. I hope that when we get to Scream 5, which is just called Scream, or alternately 5 cream, if you want, which I do. They don't actually write it that way, but I hoped that they would.
Well, it works. I get it. Those 5s and S's.
I think that the reason they call it just Scream is because Halloween had just come out. The 2018 version came out a couple years before and was just called Halloween and was a sequel to the original Halloween. And so there are things about about Scream 5 that are very much a direct commentary about that particular state of legacy sequels, which you will find out and hopefully understand, even though you probably haven't seen any of the movies that they are specifically talking about.
I saw
Have
Halloween.
you seen the Babadook?
No, but I know Babadook.
The Babadook comes up a few times in the next Scream movie, and I actually had never seen it, and I watched it just because Jenna Ortega talks about it in Scream 5. It's pretty good, actually.
All right.
But yeah, so go watch every Halloween movie and the Babadook.
We're not there yet.
And then Scream 5.
Not there
And then
yet.
we'll come back and talk about Scream 5.
We can watch Scream 5, but we can watch the other movies and talk about them another time.
Wait, so you're not willing to watch like 15 movies just to talk about Scream 5? I'm beginning to doubt your commitment to Sparkle Motion.
Matt, I just don't have the time for all that.
What could you possibly have to do that is even slightly as important as watching a bunch of unnecessary, unrelated movies?
Yard work, housework, climbing on the roof, work.
So yeah, it almost sounded like a song, but then you stopped. Artwork, housework, climbing on the roof.
Gotta work on my trailer too.
Coconut.
Yep. I gotta install another alternator in my trailer. Yep. God, that was.
I wish I'd written a song about painting the bathroom.
Gonna have to paint the bathroom and put the medicine cabinet in my art studio where I might now have to use the toilet.
Wait, do you think there's a toilet in my art studio?
There is now in my song.
That I'm moving the toilet from the bathroom into the art studio just to.
There might be that, or a bucket, or a system of the two.
I mean, there is at least one bucket. I can see it.
Toilet.
It's full of like
a lot. Don't tell me what's in there.
Like sharp wooden things that you wouldn't want to squat over.
Where did that come from?
It's full of canvas stretchers. Yes, I keep my canvas stretchers in a bucket, don't you?
Who doesn't?
It's canvas stretchers and then one wooden stake that may or may not be for killing vampires.
If you had a wooden stake and a bucket, where would you keep them? Together, one inside the other, and not the bucket and the stake.
I would keep them right next to me at all times.
Safety first.
Well, it looks like we're almost out of time, folks.
Well, I love you, Matt. It's been good hanging out.
I love you too, Ted. Hopefully it won't take us as many weeks to get to Scream 5.
We'll all meet again in Scream 5, the search for
or
more
11
money.
years.
Yeah.
The search for more money and stabbing. You can't go stabbing without more money.
Depot Devoid is hosted by Matt Fagan and Ted Fagan. Depot Devoid is not hosted by Ian Fagan because he died and we miss him. Find us at Depot Devoid Podcast on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and all your favorite podcast platforms, or reach us at depotdevoidpodcast@gmail.com.